I needed to turn my camera back on before that ended. I had a whole minute to do that, and I still forgot. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Movie Battleground. My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome back to the second of our Rookie Wednesday matches. This is a limited run of matches that we are doing, airing specially on Wednesdays that allow us to showcase some of the rookies that are coming into the league, kind of replacing the players that stepped out over the course of the tournament. And today I have two guys here with me that, while they are technically rookies to Movie Battleground, they are not names that you won't recognize amongst the community. We have, of course, if you guys watch our sister channel, TM Geek, you guys know who he is because he's one of the best. Although I'm sure if you've seen Geek trivia anywhere on the internet, you've seen his name come up. And he did used to debate in our Geek League here on TMG, but David Garcia Alonso makes his proper Movie Battleground debut today, ahead of him previously having signed up for one of our Wizarding World exhibition matches. And he is paired up against a man who, if you've watched this channel for any period of time, you should be familiar with in Alan Shepard, obviously the former co-host of a show that could only bring controversy for the 5 people that watched it and canceled this show. He was also a regular panelist on After Dark. And he is a former debater in our debate leagues. He even ran one for a while. So while this is his return to the channel after a bit of a break, he is no stranger to any of this. But why am I talking about them? Let's introduce them. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing first, making his Movie Battleground debut, he is the Spaniard, David Garcia Alonso. David, welcome in, sir.
Thank you.
I'm not used to speaking with you without Kevin by my side, although I will try my absolute best. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm actually doing great. Not nervous because like debate is not something that I am like I put a lot of my time preparing and all that stuff. So I just come here to have fun and to practice for my Wizarding World one. Alan is a very veteran competitor of this type of match. He has judged some of my previous matches, I think. So he has definitely a lot more experience than me with debate and with English. So yeah, I am just hoping to get a grasp of the format for this one. So yeah, it's always fun to be on call with Alan. So
absolutely. Best way to approach it. Just don't take any of the pressure. Let it roll off of you. That is a great way to approach a first match. And that's exactly it. You know, anyone who knows you knows that the geek stuff is your realm. And between both of you guys picking geek strengths and the other question happening to relate to one, it kind of all fell your way just a little bit in terms of the topics. But that doesn't mean we're not going to push you slightly outside of your realm and see what you can do. But I am glad to have you here, and I look forward to seeing what you can do, sir. I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back and introduce your opponent, also making his technical Movie Battleground re-debut in a sense, since he has played before. He is a man, you can call him Spaceman, you can call him Spaceman, you can call him a doctor, but his degree is about as legitimate as Dr. Phil's is now. He is Alan Shepard. And how are you doing, sir?
Aloha kako, aloha everybody. I am so happy to be back as a rookie, to be, you know, before and after and all the things. I'm just happy to be here. I'm always happy to be here, having some fun. You know, excited to go against. Me and David are gonna just have a nice little conversation. You know, agree about some things, disagree about some things, but we're just here to have fun and take everything light. But at the same time, give the audience a good show and try to make this as entertaining as we possibly can.
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously, it's been a while since you've done kind of anything in the sphere. You've kind of taken a little break off for yourself. You do have a full family, a full-time job. I'm sure with all the tourists, you've been treated kindly with COVID. So it's been, you know, it's been a little bit of a, I wouldn't say fun break period, but it's been a break period. So it is great to have you back, sir. And I am, at the very least, this will be entertaining. I'm very curious to see where this goes. Anytime we've let you talk on this channel, whether it be After Dark or Battleground, it's gotten interesting. I will say.
This is true. This is true. I got to live up to that reputation.
Absolutely. If you can somehow
English,
find a
English is obviously my first language.
Absolutely. If once I get past Google Translate in Spanish, then I will figure out how to make that work. But unfortunately, that's where I'm at right about now. So we'll go
Gotcha.
ahead and go over the rules of Movie Battleground. Movie Battleground is a best of 5 rounds. It is the first player to get 3 points wins. Each round of debate will be worth 1 point for these gentlemen. If one of them does happen to get 3 points in a row, that will be a victory by knockout. If it is a 2-2 tie at the end of 4 rounds, we do have a 5th tiebreaker that is the blind round, but we will get there if we have to. And like every veteran player, I'm sure they're praying they don't have to see whatever that is. However, we do go into the rules of the regular debate. The competitors were given the questions ahead of time. They were given as much time as they chose to use to prep for it. And here's how it'll go. First, they will have a 60-second opening argument to explain their pitch. That will be followed by 2 minutes of singular time to kind of expand on and explain out their pitch more. Then they'll have a 4-minute open discussion where they'll have the chance to go back and forth, fit in as many points as possible in order to impress our judges. And then they will have 1 minute to close, surmise, and wrap up their argument before they are sent behind the scenes. At that point, I do have 3 great judges backstage in the form of Will, Alejandro, and Madi. They will come on screen and, based off what our competitors have said in the round, make a decision on who has won the debate. With that said, though, gentlemen, do you guys have any questions for me, or are we ready to go?
Ready to go?
All right, then. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. And what a better way to get it started than by talking about the thing that I feel like has dominated the sphere over the last 10 years, which is superhero and comic book films. Obviously throughout, starting with Superman in the late 70s, through the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, slowly they began building. But the 2010s, between the MCU and anything aside from Green Lantern that DC did, was the spearhead of evolving comic book movies into the next thing. The MCU obviously built out a giant universe. We saw them move in a more artsier direction with things like Joker, which I don't think 20 years before people could have imagined would exist one day. And all in all, it was the biggest advancement and explosion at the box office. As Deadpool said, he was the highest grossing R-rated film except for Jesus. And that shows you the power of comic book films. So with that said, the question that was given to these gentlemen was, what is the best comic book film or superhero franchise of the 2010s? Now, for the sake of the question, a franchise was deemed as something that had more than one film, whether they had 2 or 3 or 4 or 20. It doesn't really matter. Well, actually, they couldn't have had 20. The other kind of withstanding rule was that the MCU and the DCEU as a whole could not be selected, but individual series within could be selected in addition to anything that happened outside of those. Because, let's be real, the bulk of the MCU happened in the 2010s, and I feel like that's a hard fight for whoever says that first. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get into it. Alan, because you do have a little more debate experience than David, you were chosen as the favorite in this match because that's basically all we had to go on. You chose to go first on questions 2 and 4. So that means, David, you will be going first on question number 1. And as I bring up your timer, your first minute will start when you begin speaking.
So inside of recent events, I think the only option that I could choose of the best superhero franchise of these recent years is the Spider-Man Home trilogy. And I ask that because who here didn't at least shed a tear with that last movie in the theater? It is now, I think, the third trilogy with the most average rating in Rotten Tomatoes and the higher Rotten Tomatoes average trilogy in the MCU for sure. But not only that, I think it's because I think Spider-Man Homecoming, the Home trilogy, is the best trilogy because it centers around the character, which some other trilogies don't do as well. It centers around his journey and is one of the most beloved superheroes of all time, if not the most beloved superhero of all time.
And that is a perfectly on the dot time. Alan, back over to you, sir, for your opening minute.
All right. For all of these movies, I've tried to pin it on the best within the confines of the question. The best, what ended up being a trilogy, and that would have been the Captain America film, starting with Captain America: First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and of course Civil War, which I think is the best. The best through line for a character, for a single character, for Captain America, from his origin to his, having to fight with all of these external issues, be them his friends, the government, the way he views the world, the way the world kind of views him, from beginning, middle, and end. With those three films, I think it shows the best representation of that character's growth and change, and the best action sequences in superhero films of all time, hands down, are in these three films, and the best use of additional characters also in these three films. So all that makes the best trilogy, I think, in the confines of the question, that I'm arguably, probably, all superhero films.
All right, and that is time. David, I go back over to you, sir. You will have 2 minutes to continue your argument. The time starts when you begin speaking, and this is just a reminder to both competitors, because this is your first time. Though you don't, obviously, you have a total 2 minutes. At any point, if you feel you're out of things to say, you do have the right to concede your time and allow the next competitor to go if you feel you've said everything you need to say. With that said, David, it is back to you.
So even if I agree that Captain America's arc is one of the best in the MCU, I don't think you can compare it to Spider-Man because a few things. First of all, the arc that you're talking about that is so great about Captain America, it doesn't happen only in the three films, and we are talking about a franchise. And for me, for a trilogy to be perfect, it has to have a complete arc. The Captain America's arc doesn't end. Civil War is not a conclusion. In fact, we have no fucking idea how everything is or how everything is going to end. It ends in two separate films of that franchise, that is Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man, in the Spider-Man Home trilogy, however, you focus completely on Spider-Man. Sure, you bring in Tony Stark, you bring in Doctor Strange, but the focus is on Spider-Man and in his journey, how he wants to be the hero everybody expects him to be. In the first movie, it's about he wants to be an Avenger. He has to learn that it's better to be a street hero that helps the little people. In the second one, he doesn't want the responsibility. He's trying to run from it, and suddenly he gets dragged in a world destruction event that he doesn't want to be a part of, and he learns that that responsibility that you cannot escape being a superhero. And in the third movie, he loses everything and learns the hard way what it means, what the phrase "with great power comes great responsibility" means. So in my opinion, just because of the humanity of that franchise, how we can relate to everything Peter Parker is going through, who doesn't want to take a break from life, from the life that you have to be living? Who doesn't want to just have a vacation, but you can't because your problems keep coming at you? The loss of a loved one, everything that happens to Spider-Man being so young and being such a beloved character, plus everybody that comes back and makes us cry, makes Spider-Man the best trilogy.
And time. All right, Alan, back over to you. You have 2 minutes on the clock, sir.
I think that that the Captain America trilogy perfectly encapsulates Cap's story arc, his journey as a character. We see his origin in First Avenger. We see him going through what it's like to be somebody who's been frozen in time, and the whole world has changed on him. So all of his beliefs, all of his social structures, all of the government structures, everything that America was fighting for, what the world was fighting for, was completely changed and taken away from him. He had to relearn everything of how the world works in Winter Soldier, and then in Civil War, trying to finally get a grasp of how this new world works. Now he has to deal with the fact that where is his family? Where is his home? It's in these people. That's people, yes, that two other movies, the Avenger movies, that he gathered with them and fought with them. But now there's there's disruption in the family, because are we going to take orders from a government who has an agenda, or are we going to determine on our own what is right and what is wrong? And Cap's steadfast thing was always fighting for what is right, for what he believes in, and for what the simple fact that people are good, but governments have agendas, groups have agendas, and they can turn on you at the drop of a hat, which he finds out through actually all three films, and then really goes forth at that last film. And I think Civil War has a perfect conclusion. Cap's going to fight for what he believes in, fight for people, no matter what. Even those that are against him, he will say, hey, if you need me, I will be there. His last act in Civil War is breaking out the Avengers that fought with him out of prison, and even saying to his greatest enemy at that time was Tony Stark, saying, look, I'm going to be here with you no matter what, because I know your family and I know you're always going to fight for the right thing. We just happen to disagree on what that is. Beautiful conclusion, I think, to Cap's story arc throughout the three films. So best trilogy, in my opinion. In the last 4 seconds. There you go. Enough said.
All right, that will be time. We're going to go into the 4-minute open debate. This will be the time where you guys can go back and forth and get in as many points as possible. While there is no set, strict rule, I do ask you guys are pretty appreciative of each other's time. Give each other a chance to speak. Don't hog up too much of it. But with that said, the timer will start ticking when the first person does speak.
Well, I'll go with the. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. With the thing that not really learning anything, and we saw those big moments of Cap when he learned things in the other two films. I would say that definitely is true with the Spider-Man trilogy. We don't even really see Spider-Man's origin. Yes, we as a general public have seen Spider-Man's origin and we know it, but with that first Spider-Man Homecoming film, we don't see his origin. We see kind of, oh, he's been Spider-Man, he's had these powers, we know what's going on, kind of, but really doesn't see him learning what it means to be Spider-Man. I argue we don't really see that at all until No Way Home, until this final film. And again, that tagline that makes Spider-Man who Spider-Man is, with great power comes great responsibility. We didn't hear that until No Way Home. And then he lost something. We didn't even really see how the greatest loss that in the previous two films, the previous two Spider-Man films, his greatest loss up to that point, again, we saw in an Avengers film with the loss of Tony Stark. We didn't see that in the Spider-Man Homecoming film or Far From Home. We didn't see those things. So I'd argue his greatest learning moments we didn't see in the Spider-Man films until that last film with the loss of Aunt May in No Way Home. So in my opinion, that No Way Home could have been the only Spider-Man film we really needed in this new trilogy, or this new era of Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man. It didn't really learn that much in the previous two, and the stakes weren't really that high for him as a character or the world in general. So yeah, I think a better learning figure not in that film.
I think you are looking at it the wrong way, especially because you are saying we are not seeing evolution from Spider-Man we are not seeing his origin story. Sure, we don't see how he gets bitten by the spider. Everybody knows that. In fact, I actually think it's one of the best decisions to ever make, because we have seen that twice already. Who wanted to see Uncle Ben killed again? Who wanted to see the Flash Thompson fight again? Who wanted to see the Spider beating Spider-Man again? We already know that, but I could argue that the three Spider-Man movies are an origin story trilogy. You say that he doesn't learn anything in the first two movies. In the first movie, he learns that the suit doesn't make the person. You have to have the guts to do what is right. As you described perfectly in your time, you have to fight for what you believe in, if it means to stand up to the people that you admire. He stands up to Tony Stark and he does what he tells him not to do. And then he renounces one of his biggest wishes to protect the people he cares about in the streets of New York. He refuses to join the Avengers. If that's not a learning point or a maturing point, I don't know what is. In the second film, he decides to leave the responsibility of being a superhero for a while, and he learns that you cannot escape what you are, and being a Spider-Man is what Peter Parker is. Sure, he in No Way Home is actually probably the weakest of the three, but I think it sends a beautiful message, oh Jesus Christ, English, that you are a superhero if you care about everything that being a superhero represents, protecting the people. Evil won't rest. Evil won't wait until you are off from vacation. And then in the third movie, as you said, we do see that online, but he has been learning that. He has been learning the meaning of that phrase: with great power comes great responsibility, in the first two films. And it focuses on family, it focuses on mentors, it focuses on father figures, and it focuses on friendships and love, something so human that everybody can relate to when you are in high school, John, when you are growing up and learning who you are. And Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the 1 minute closings. David, you are up first, so the timer will start when you speak. No problem.
So as my closing argument, I just want to recap something that I said, that Alan said that Captain America's story arc conclusion in Civil War is great, and I think that's wrong, because that's not the conclusion of Captain America's story arc. The Captain America's story arc is how he copes with the loss of Peggy Carter and how he copes with the loss of everything. He makes the ultimate sacrifice at the beginning of his journey in his first movie, but then we don't see the conclusion of the reversing that sacrifice after he feels his job is done until Avengers Endgame. So saying, I will be there for you, to Tony Stark, who is not really like the biggest bad guy he's coming across, I don't feel that's like a satisfying conclusion from Captain America. If Captain America didn't appear again, I don't think we'll be satisfied. Now, if Spider-Man doesn't appear again in the MCU, I think his story will be great after No Way Home.
And time. All right, Alan, back over to you. You got 1 minute on the clock. The time starts when you begin speaking.
I think the Captain America story isn't the end of the trilogy. Isn't the end of? You're right. It's not the end of Captain America. Just like the Spider-Man trilogy is not the end of Spider-Man. We're theoretically never going to see the end of these arcs. We get an ending for Captain America in the Avenger film in Endgame, but not the end of that character in general and what that character's growth as a person whose world has changed around him. He never had the opportunity of a father figure or of a family until he got that family and got these select characters to be his family in Civil War and in Winter Soldier. I think the stronger story arc and proper end we get is the relationship with Bucky throughout, rather than Peggy Carter. They're important characters to him, but his stronger story arc is what he has to deal with on a personal level. And I think he exhibits way more growth as a character in his trilogy than Spider-Man does in his. Steve Rogers is the embodiment of the good in people, and always fighting for people.
And time. All right, guys, a really good fight to start out. I'm going to go ahead and have you guys take a rest in the back, get your water, get what you need. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the judges. And there's not much to fact check on this round, but there was a statement made at the start by David about Spider-Man, the trilogy as a whole being one of the best reviewed trilogies of comic book films in the 2010s. Now, obviously, to try and get every franchise that came out in the 2010s in about 12 minutes would have been a little difficult, especially because I do have to pay attention to the show. But with that said, I was able to do it for the MCU. And on that front, he is correct. The Spider-Man trilogy in the MCU, using Rotten Tomatoes as the aggregator of reviews, does come out with the highest percentage at 92% like rating over 3 films when averaged together. Captain America, if you just count the films, comes in 4th place at 86% if you factor in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which technically would be considered a sequel to that trilogy, as it does carry over 4 characters and literally has a new Captain America. It moves up to 3rd, coming in at about 88% if you round up. So still very, very good. For what it's worth, every franchise in the MCU is above 80%, with the exception of Thor, which comes in at 79%. So needless to say, they're doing pretty well right now. But with that said, it's about what was said in the fight, not what math I did in the intermediary. So, gentlemen, I go to you. Will, who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
So I went with David on this one here. While both people had very strong arguments, I feel that not only did David have the stronger argument, but he was able to rebut every single thing that Alan threw at him. So I think that he deserves that point.
All right, fair enough. Alejandro, I go down to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main thing that sold you?
This one was pretty close because I think there were a lot of really good points brought up all across the board. I think David's point that Endgame was not a satisfying end to Captain America is absolutely on point, but that's only one problem that I have with that movie. I had actually stricken from the record when he said that Captain America was unfinished because of the technical difficulties that we had, but I'm glad he got a chance to at least get that out. But the main point for me was Alan saying that all of Spider-Man's big moments have been in like the Avengers movies and Infinity War and Endgame, and even in a Captain America movie, Civil War. So for that reason, I got to go with Alan.
All right, so it's 1-1, which means Madi, we do cycle over to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main thing that sold you?
I'm kind of in the middle of both of these guys. I think that both of them had really good arguments. The main point, though, I thought was the fact that even though, David did say a lot about like how Captain America's story does go into the other Avengers movies, etc. Alan did bring that up, that also Spider-Man is in those. So because a lot of David's argument came from that, and Alan was able to counter that by saying Spider-Man was also in those movies, I'm also going with the good doctor there.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back and bring back in our competitors off the back of a very good first fight. Welcome to Movie Battleground. No easy fights. Well, except this one. This one will be easy because you're going to get to shit on something. I mean, if that's fun for you. I don't know if it is. Alan looks excited. I can't say we all. I would say enough people like Kevin Hart to maintain that he is still successful till today. I personally like his stand-up. I think he's a good enough stand-up, and I think his films can be decent if they're, written by quality writers. But with that said, he does have some bad ones, and a lot of those bad ones came early in his career in the 2000s. So the question we asked was, what is the worst film featuring Kevin Hart released in the 2000s? Now, because most of Kevin Hart's roles in the 2000s were not starring roles, they were mostly supporting roles as he was still building his career. Judges, I do ask that you don't take how much Kevin Hart is brought up into account, because really it is just more about the films. Kevin Hart is just the baseline for how we're picking the films. But with that said, Alan, you are up first on this one as you chose to be. So I'll bring the timer back in for you, and it will start when you begin speaking.
This one was easy for me. The worst film, not talking about Kevin Hart being a prominent role in this film, is Meet Dave, which was an Eddie Murphy vehicle back when Eddie Murphy, in his second kind of Eddie Murphy renaissance, where he played a group of aliens inhabiting a spaceship that was Eddie Murphy's body, trying to relate to humanity so they could hopefully take it over. And then they learn how to love, blah, blah, blah. A terrible film. And Kevin Hart's the co-pilot guy that just happened to be one of Eddie Murphy's minions guys, sidekick characters. A horrible use for Kevin Hart. He was more for a stand-up then. And just completely wasted. He created no character. Eddie Murphy was trying to create a character in this fish out of water, no emotions, don't know what it means to be human. But Kevin Hart didn't even try for a character. He was just Kevin Hart light, and it was a pathetic use for it, and an overall terrible, terrible film that used every trope that was negative against those films at that time, and just an awful mess. Meet Dave, no thanks.
All right, David, I go over to you. The time starts when you begin speaking. And you're muted.
agree. Meet Dave is not a good movie, but at least it made me laugh when I watched it as a kid. However, when we talk about humor and laughter, I think there is no lowest of lows types of humor than spoof movies, especially the modern spoof movies where they basically do cheap humor that doesn't make you laugh at all. And I think Kevin Hart actually featured in one of them named Superhero Movie, which is a freaking mess. Even it is one of the last spoof movies to come out, and honestly, I think it was because of that movie and some very similar that the spoof movie genre kind of died. It literally helped to kill a movie genre. You cannot go ahead and try to be like a critic and do a parody of whatever you were trying to do. It's a mess. It's interconnected. It is just a set of scenes that don't connect at all.
And time. All right, Alan, back over to you for 2 more minutes on the cinematic classic that is Meet.
The cinematic mess that is Meet Dave, that was trying to we've already put Eddie Murphy in a fat suit, we've already made him play multiple characters in many films. That's worked. Let's have him play a bunch of different characters that are exactly the same, and let's try to say, oh, Eddie Murphy is a good straight man. No, he's not. He is the comedian. He is the funny guy. It's funny when he plays these other characters because Eddie Murphy is funny and he creates outlandish characters. Let's take all of that and strip it away and try to make him have this no personality and find out what it means to be a human who has no personality. It's just a failure and a horrible mess. So what they tried to do was create something that could potentially be very funny based off a formula, but that formula failed. It did not work at all. It wasn't even a good, cute little romantic comedy kind of storyline. It was just pathetic and weird and stupid, and not weird in a good way. At least with spoof movies, with the superhero movie, they know what they want to do. We're making a stupid spoof movie. We know our audience. We know what this is. Yes, it's low grade, it's low rent, but that's what it is. That's what we want. Here we go. Let's just spoon it out, put it out there. And do all the jokes work? No, but it's still funny and amusing, at least in a way that they knew what they had. They're going for it. Let's just put it out there. With Meet Dave, they tried to make this thing that worked on basic formulas, and it ended up failing miserably because they stripped what was good about those formulas and stripped it away and took it out. And so it was just a hot mess and pathetic, and not even the best work of the director or any of the other actors in that film. They didn't know what they were doing. They tried too hard to make a film that they thought would work based off formulas that did not. It was really, really bad. With superhero movie, they knew what they were doing. We're making a stupid spoof movie. Here it goes. Was it a great spoof movie? No, there have been some brilliant spoof movies. Top Gun, Airplane series, great spoof movies. That one wasn't great. The superhero movie wasn't that great, but Meet Dave failed on all fronts, trying to be something that it wasn't.
All right, and that is time. David, back over to you for 2 minutes.
I think one of the keys that you mentioned in your argument is that they tried something. At least they tried something. They did try to deliver a message about about emotions being needed to be a compelling human being. They tried to come up with an original concept in this, a giant spaceship commanded by little people in the form of a human body. I actually thought it was original, at least. And I was curious about how everything would work. They had, honestly, they had memorable scenes in what I laughed. I still remember the damn handshake scene that made me laugh. I still remember when he started pooping the hot dogs after winning the competition. I still remember when he makes the money. I still remember all those kinds of things because they made me laugh. It's not a great movie, but honestly, I can't even say which spoof scenes are from superhero movie, which ones are from epic movie, which ones are from scary movie, because all those movies blur together. It's not only awful, it's forgettable. And I think one of the worst things a movie can be is forgettable and to blur together with the same movies of its genre. You remember Meet Dave. you remember Meet Dave and you remember scenes of Meet Dave. Now, a superhero movie helped kill the genre, as I have already said. And Meet Dave, I think it didn't succeed in what they wanted to do, but it succeeded in some things. I think Eddie Murphy is not bad as the portrayal of that unemotional that actually learns to have emotions and to connect with the human people. I think Elizabeth Banks is actually good in it. I think the story with the kid is decent. I mean, Meet Dave is not a great movie, but to say superhero movie is not great, I think it's a bit of a stretch. Superhero movie, it's probably one of the worst spoof movies that you can make.
And time. All right, gentlemen, we're going to go into the 4-minute open debate. The time starts when the first person speaks.
I'm glad you remember things about Meet Dave. I completely forgotten about it. I remember seeing it in the theaters because I was such a huge fan of Eddie Murphy's at the time, and the whole what happened with the Nutty Professor movies, and absolutely was craving and couldn't wait and thought, yes, original idea, great. We see Eddie Murphy as all these, as these little people, and they're in a human spaceship, and this will be interesting. But it ended up just being, I don't remember laughing at anything. I remember them thinking, oh, yeah, they tried. But I only remember it because I rewatched bits and pieces of it for this debate because it completely left my mind. I didn't remember that movie until I saw a list of Kevin Hart movies and these in the 2000s. Oh, crap. Oh, my God. Really? This one? Shit. Yeah. So, nah. Superhero movie. Brett Spiner, he was fun. There was some really fun, stupid things. But again, they're setting that's where they set the bar. We're making a stupid spoof movie. Let's not pretend it's anything else. And here you go. With Meet Dave, they were trying something and an epic fail on it because they really didn't know how to put it together. And these are based off a group of people that have done that before. They've created great films and original ideas before, but just failed on this one for whatever reason. Maybe it was a bad mix of everything, but I really think it was because they tried to take something, okay, let's strip everything that's funny about that formula and strip it away. And that's what happened. They created this bland thing that just made no sense at all.
I actually think that Meet Dave, I actually genuinely made me laugh when I was a kid. Maybe you watched it a little bit older. Maybe that's why. Maybe it wasn't meant for you. But honestly, I can say that if I was a kid, I would laugh at the poop jokes. If I was a kid, I would laugh at I laughed at the handshake. I actually laughed with Meet Dave. It's not a great movie. Don't get me wrong. It's not a great movie. But superhero movie, especially with spoof movies in general, but I think superhero movie especially, you said they know what they are doing and they didn't. They wanted to do a spoof, but most spoofs ended up being parodies, then end up being bad, stupid parodies that then turn into porn parodies. But the only one being fucked in the end are the audience. So I don't think I don't really think that Meet Dave is worse than superhero movie, mostly because children cannot watch that, which are the people that actually enjoy stupid and absurd humor. While children, I can guarantee you, children will laugh with Meet Dave, will love the little people. And I actually, as a child, because I'm 27, when it came out, I was a child. I laughed, especially with those three scenes that stick in my mind: the hot dogs, the money, the ball throwing thing, and those, and I don't know what else.
Those things are good for children, but I would argue that spoof movies aren't made for children. Any spoof movie. I mean, if you show a kid Top Gun or Airplane, there's a lot of adult humor in those things. I don't think spoof movies are made for children. I think, and especially with superheroes, the biggest superhero movie audience isn't really kids. It's 18 to 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds at this point. I think for those. So I think the spoof movies are definitely made for an older audience, especially superhero movie. I mean, and they did parody tropes. When the kid was running and he had to get his costume underneath. I actually laughed at all of that stuff. And the weird not knowing how to use your superpowers. was at least funny. At least they tried to do something that was okay. This is funny and cute, and made for an audience that matched the audience of basic superhero films.
Aren't made for kids. These movies aren't made for kids. Kids cannot watch them. But I think if you made other type of movies with spoof movies, kids could watch them and could be the ones that enjoy them.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 1 minute closings, guys, after a great round there. Alan, you are up first, so the timer will start when you begin speaking.
I think that Meet Dave, I've already noticed or mentioned that it was a failure on all fronts. I don't think, and rewatchability, there's none. I mean, there's one of those things that if David saw it when he was a kid and he laughed, I doubt if he watched it now, he would laugh again, because it's tries so many things, especially having nuanced taste in filmmaking, in knowing what you want to see as an audience. It just fails on so many fronts. And kids, there's a lot of innuendo in that movie in Meet Dave that'll go right over a kid's head. And then me watching it now, I'm not going to laugh because it's even too juvenile for an adult. So it again fails in that, where is its audience? Who is this movie for? What is it trying to accomplish? It took, again, formula that worked with previous Eddie Murphy films, and that director specifically, and it just didn't. It failed on this front because they took what was good about that formula and took it away. I just think it's an unforgettable movie, and no one will be talking about it in next year.
And time. All right. David, back to you. You have one last minute on the clock.
I want to wrap up with the thought that Meet Dave, even if they don't know who their audience is, it actually meets the audience. Yeah, maybe the innuendos go over the kids' heads, but they will like it. That's the thing. They will like it. While superhero movie, you cannot show them to kids, and adults won't laugh with that movie because the jokes are stupid unless you like very sexual jokes. That's like how it works, because those are spoof movies that blur together a lot of stupid scenes that don't have anything to do with each other, and not only blur themselves together with the own film, but with the other spoof movies that were made that helped kill that genre. Those movies, they made 3 movies of those, I think, and then they said, we are not going to do more of these because they are not working. Also, as a lasting point, I am going to say that superhero movie is lower rated than Meet Dave in both IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So the critics and the audience also think superhero movie is worse.
And time. All right. Gentlemen, great job once again. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back, and I will go ahead and bring in our 3 judges. And before we get to their thoughts, we're going to go over some quick fact checks here. So Meet Dave, since it was brought up a lot of who its audience is, Meet Dave is classified as a sci-fi kids film. It is rated PG, so its intended audience seemingly would be for children and the parents that are stuck going to see the movie. Superhero movie, though David is correct, and it came out in and around the time that we had just a slew of shitty parody films after Scary Movie. Superhero movie is actually not made by the 2 gentlemen that are known for destroying that genre, which would be Friedberg and Seltzer. They are the guys that made Epic Movie, Meet the Spartans, Vampires Suck, among many other bad films. Superhero movie is actually directed by Jerry Zucker of the famous Zucker brothers, behind Airplane and Hot Shots and the other more successful films in the 80s and 90s, which is almost kind of worse in a way, but he is, even though it did come out around that same time, and I would say that the point that it helped destroy the genre is correct, it is not associated with the directors that are known for destroying the genre. Alan made a comment about Meet Dave not being the best of anyone's work, so I decided, well, let's see, because it's not good, but let's see where it falls. And while it'd be a little much to try and check everybody's filmography, I did go and check the director, because he's not a name that you would recognize, Brian Robbins. However, well, let's put it this way. The only positive film based off of Rotten Tomatoes aggregated review scores that he has was a documentary. every cinematic film he has ever made has been reviewed rotten. The highest of those is Varsity Blues, which does have a good audience score. However, he is also responsible for films such as Good Burger, The Shaggy Dog, Ready to Rumble, and arguably two of the worst of Eddie Murphy's career. And I'm not even talking about Meet Dave. He is the director of Norbit, which is often associated as the film that lost Eddie Murphy his Oscar. And he directed 1,000 Words, which is considered the film that killed Eddie Murphy's career for about 6-7 years. So with that said, we'll go ahead and turn it over to the judges. Alejandro, who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you from the argument?
Well, first, I'd like to take issue with the fact that you said we had a slew of garbage spoof movies after Scary Movie. I think Scary Movie is also a garbage spoof movie, but that's neither here nor there. Back to the match. I think there were a lot of good points brought up by both competitors, but the ones that sold me is that they're not going to laugh at this movie, and it's the lowest of the low for that reason. I'm going with David, superhero movie. Terrible watch.
All right, which means Mehdi, I shift down to you next. Who gets your vote, and what was the main thing that sold you?
Yeah, don't watch either of these movies. They're not worthy of being watched. I also went with David. I think David just had a little bit more to say about why Meet Dave wasn't as bad as superhero movie, whereas I didn't hear as much from Alan about why superhero movie was even worth watching for any audience. So that's the main reason that I'm giving my point to David. Also, Alan, you said Top Gun. I don't think that's a spoof movie, but it might.
I think you meant Hot Shots. Yeah.
Yeah, you meant Hot Shots.
But to be fair, Top Gun is a film that features a bunch of oiled up, shirtless guys and girls running around playing volleyball, so it might as well be a parody.
If that's not how life was in the 80s, I'm glad I grew up in the 90s. Honestly, that's all I have to say.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back. Thank you so much, as we'll go ahead and bring back in our competitors, and we will move on to question number 3, and what has been top secret. That's what you meant.
I thought you were referring to Naked Gun.
Oh, see, we could have gone anywhere. Could have got anywhere.
Yeah, that could have been any of them, really. So let's go ahead and move on. And as was kind of mentioned earlier at the start of this fight, moving, kind of referencing our sister series on our TMG trivia channel, TM Geek, both of these competitors have competed in it. And at different points, they have both record-wise been in the top echelon of competitors, with both having successful tournament runs previously, and even in David's case, going for title matches. Don't worry, it's not your guys' fault. Joe dominates this week too. It's just a thing that he does. But with that said, if we're gonna ask some geek questions, why not give these guys one of the most debatable ones? The question is, what is the best film of Star Wars' original trilogy? We have 3 excellent game-changing films in cinema. Only one can be deemed the best. And with that said, we are going to go ahead and turn it to our competitors. David, you are up first on this one for your opening minute. It will start when you begin speaking, sir.
Star Wars. I mean, it's probably one of the best franchises of all time. It's my favorite franchise of all time. And even if it's not my favorite movie of the Star Wars franchise, I really, really think it's the best. And it's Episode 4, A New Hope, or as it was known, just Star Wars. And I think that first title, it's because it embodies what Star Wars is the final underdog story that is Star Wars encapsulated in one movie. I also think it's the only movie that you can watch without knowing anything about what has happened before or what is going to happen after. It's a perfect movie. It's the perfect hero's journey from start to finish. Luke's journey through that movie and the characters that are presented to you, you fall in love with them almost instantly. And it's that movie that helps you love them through the entire saga. Without A New Hope, there will be no Star Wars. Without the success of A New Hope, there would be no Star Wars. And it's the only one that won more than one Oscar.
And time. All right. Alan, I shift over to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
This question was really hard because it's kind of asking, what is your favorite child? Which of your children is your favorites of the 3 children? It's too hard. It's in any given day, you know, I don't know, this one did this. It's hard to wrap up a trilogy. It is hard to make a successful sequel. It's even harder to make a successful 3rd film. And then to wrap up a story arc in a trilogy, it's hard to do that. But I think Return of the Jedi nails it on all fronts. It is, for me, the most rewatchable of the 3 films. And it's the most exciting. I think it has some of the best the character work in all of our heroes. I think it tells Luke's story, a brilliant wrap up to Luke's story when we're following it as a 3-piece film, a 3-piece trilogy, and it nails those endings in a way that very few other third movies could possibly do. And so I think it's the best of the original trilogy. That's all. That's what I'll say. Time.
All right, that is time. And just because for all of you hardcore Star Wars fans out there, this shout out is for you. According to Movie Battleground, because it was not selected, Empire Strikes Back is 3rd. Take that. David, I go down to you. David, I go down to you. You have 2 minutes on the clock, sir. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Let's just all agree that I think every single Star Wars movie did what they had to do perfectly. But I also respect for Alan for not picking the easy choice in Empire Strikes Back. Respect. So I'll say it. Return of the Jedi is my favorite movie of all time. But being completely logical, I cannot say it's the best Star Wars movie of the original trilogy, because I think it has the most flaws. The first flaw being at the very beginning of the movie, like, Alan, can you please tell me, please tell me, what is Luke Skywalker's plan in Jabba's palace? What is Luke Skywalker's plan in Jabba's palace? I am going to tell everybody I'm a Jedi, known for using the Force, and then, surprisingly, I am going to take a gun with the Force. Nobody's going to suspect that I will do that. I'm going to shoot Jabba in the freaking face with everybody surrounding me, and then just see what happens. You say they showcase Luke Skywalker. I mean, Luke Skywalker is my favorite character, but that was very dumb and very stupid plan to just set up a great action sequence. But I think they could have done it a lot better. So then it also disconnects the movie. I think the movie is disconnected from the middle. The first half of the movie in Jabba's palace doesn't have anything to do with the second half, and I think it could have benefited a little from having more build-up to that Endor battle. We only have a brief briefing of the mission, and then off we go. I agree, it's a perfect conclusion, but A New Hope is the perfect beginning. You didn't fall in love with Han Solo in the last movie. You fell in love with the scoundrel. You fell in love with the person that only thinks about himself, and that's the appeal of Han Solo, not the good general that now is all for the rebellion. The appeal of Leia Organa is the one that challenges everybody in front of her, not the good soldier or the good princess that has to do her duty. Luke Skywalker is beloved as an underdog, not a full Jedi.
And time.
Well, I'll answer your question, David. What was Luke's plan? I don't even think Luke really knew what his full plan was going to be, other than it was setting upon the promise of what happened at the end of Empire. We're going to go get Han because that's the right thing to do. We got to get it. That's our boy. That's the scoundrel we fell in love with. Let's go get him. And I think he realizes, hey, you know, I should have planned this out a little bit better. Maybe I'm not a master Jedi yet. So what does he decide to do after they go get Han and rescue him successfully? Thank goodness. I got to go talk to Yoda. My plan was not the best. I'm not maybe the master Jedi I thought I was. Let me go talk to Yoda, see what I can get, see what advice and additional training I can get, and let me figure that out. And then we see his progression and growth through at the very end, when he takes all the things he screwed up in the beginning of Jedi, and at the end of it, all comes to fruition when he learns finally there's a time to fight, there's a time not to fight, and we've always got to stay true to the dark or the light side, the good side, not the dark side. Don't give in to temptation. He finds out about his sister, finds out more about the fate or not fate of his father, is confronting his father, and is finally able to do that. All the time trusting his instincts again with I know they're still good in my father. I'm going to figure that out. And that pays off into fruition. Jedi is the ultimate payoff movie of all three things we've been building up to and loving all these characters. Jedi is the ultimate payoff for everything and everybody. For the Force, what our idea of the Force is, what Luke's journey through the Force is, through Vader taking the heinous villain, evil bad guy, and successfully making him, okay, we now love him. We now want to see a whole other trilogy about this guy. Maybe not the damn prequels, but we want to see we want to know more about this guy. He's not just this evil bad guy, because Luke, we went on the journey through with Luke, and the payoff is with him at the end, and it pays off so much more. Also, Jedi has the best villain of all time in Emperor Palpatine. It has the best lightsaber battle, the best music of the trilogy, and the greatest spaceship battle, and a payoff for all these amazing characters like Chewie and the droids and Lando. It's incredible.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer will start ticking when the first person chimes in.
I'll let you go first, sir.
You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted, bro. It's okay, brother. It's all right. Go ahead.
I agree. Return of the Jedi is absolutely incredible, but that doesn't mean it's the best movie of the trilogy. It is a great, 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 heartwarming payoff. But as I said, it has its flaws, like the Ewoks. The Ewoks are one of the most divisive things of Star Wars until The Last Jedi came out. Like a lot of people feel like the trilogy was ruined by the Ewoks, and for some reasons, I am not going to say which side I am on this, but the Ewoks ruined the franchise for some people. Then, to counter your argument that we have to save Han, we have to go. Actually, canonically, months have passed since the ending of the Empire Strikes Back and the beginning of Return of the Jedi, so plenty of time to plan it. And he still decided to just go and see what happens. Palpatine, I agree, is one of the greatest villains of all cinema, but it wasn't because of Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi, Palpatine is great, but it doesn't shine as much as it does after the prequels have come out. The prequels help build up Palpatine, and now when you rewatch Return of the Jedi, you are afraid of what Palpatine can do. But that was done by the prequels, not just Return of the Jedi. So I think there is a lack of setup for Palpatine. That he's only mentioned, I think, 3 times in the whole first 2 movies. While A New Hope, they present you the bad guy in one of the best opening scenes of Star Wars, I may add. It has, in my opinion, one of the best space battle, better than Return of the Jedi. The Yavin battle, honestly, is for me the best one, because it has one of the best payoffs on Luke finally using the Force and hearing his old master's voice, and like being able to focus on the moment instead of looking at the binary suns, hoping to be up there flying a ship, and now he's finally doing it. He's saving the universe, and it wraps it up. If the trilogy would have ended there, it would have been also perfect. So yeah.
Well, of course, but if the saying that there would be no trilogy if there wasn't an additional couple movies. So agreed. I mean, you can't have Star Wars without the original Star Wars. That of course makes total sense. And again, it's like picking your favorite child. And I'll counter with the Ewoks. I was never in the anti-Ewok camp. The Ewoks were an indigenous people group, beings that were trying to fight against tyranny. They were trying to fight against the evil empire coming in, taking their planet over just so they could use the resources to make this shield generator. The Ewoks were a perfect example of, here's our heroes that we followed through this whole entire 2 previous films. They have to side with a group of indigenous people to try to help them. Hey guys, let's go with us so we can fight this empire, so that the whole universe can be rid of this evil empire. Come with us so we can fight these guys. I've always loved the Ewoks. I think the Ewoks are amazing. They showed us depth of character. They showed us compassion for one another. They showed us using using natural resources against lasers and metal and all this kind of thing. They showed us ingenuity. They were incredible beings. I absolutely love the Ewoks and always sided with the Ewoks. Never been anti-Ewok. They're fantastic. Luke, the first film, Star Wars, is a great small story. It's fantastic. They were able to build upon it. And I argue that Jedi was the ultimate fruition of them. Hey, we found success in this story. Let's continue it. Let's continue it. Let's make it better, better, and better. And I think they did throughout that whole thing, where the ultimate payoff with Jedi is just absolutely incredible because of Luke's character. Here, we can take this farm boy off of the planet, make him the savior of the universe, and then make it a great payoff for his sacrifice, the things he sacrificed throughout these three films. The Jedi is just a perfect ending to that trilogy.
All right, we're going to go on to the 1 minute closings. David, you are up first. The timer will start for you when you begin speaking.
I don't think it matters what you think about the Ewoks. I think what it matters is that the Ewoks aren't like completely beloved in the Star Wars community, and that says something because A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, I don't see a single bad thing in the community about them, while the community is actually criticizing Return of the Jedi a lot because of the Ewoks, the musical number in Jabba's palace, which is one of the worst things in the Star Wars original trilogy. And try to argue with me, you can't do that. And also, Return of the Jedi is the only Star Wars original trilogy movie that didn't win an Oscar. And A New Hope was actually nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. So I think the Academy, the audience, and most people think that Star Wars A New Hope is the most rewatchable, one of the most heartwarming stories, with Luke Skywalker finally being able to blow up the Death Star. It sets up a sequel with Vader, but it gives us a satisfying ending for a first off.
And time. All right, Alan, back over to you. Time starts and you begin speaking, sir.
If we're going to talk about scenes that divided the community, I got one thing to say: Han shot first. All right. If we're adding the special edition stuff, what Lucas screwed up in all the films, all those three original trilogies, then yes, the Jabba scene is pretty terrible. The musical number is pretty terrible. But Greedo shooting first is even worse. It does more damage to Han Solo than anything in Jabba's palace. Jabba's palace didn't affect our main characters who we love. But Greedo shooting first, that destroyed Han Solo. It made him weak, and it made him not the scoundrel that we all fall in love with. Jedi, I think, just has the best of everything that we love about Star Wars. Jedi has it all. Has the best space battles, the best cinematography as far as that's concerned, the best music. I mean, the whole lightsaber battle with Luke and Vader in the Emperor's throne room is absolutely incredible. The dialogue, a lot of the dialogue in The New Hope is really, really cute and fun, but not meaty and groundbreaking and amazing as in the Emperor's throne room at the very end of that film.
And time. All right, gentlemen, that was another very good round. All right.
Love you, David. Love you.
You're doing great so far. I'll go ahead and send you both to the back, and I will bring forth our three judges. Not much fact checking here, but there was that comment about the Oscars made at the end, so I decided to look into that. Star Wars was nominated for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Academy Awards, sweeping all of the technical awards in visual effects, sound, original score, editing, costume design, and art direction. It was nominated for, but did not win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor for Alec Guinness. Return of the Jedi was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Sound, Best Special Effects, Best Original Score, and Best Art Direction. Both of these films won special, both of these films won Special Achievement Academy Awards in the year of their release, though. So adding an extra win to Star Wars, it won a Special Achievement Academy Award for Ben Burtt's work on Alien Creature and Robot Voices. And Return of the Jedi won a Special Achievement Academy Award for visual effects because there was not a visual effects. There was not a visual effects Academy Award given out that year. For what it's worth, Empire Strikes Back also won that same achievement award because the visual effects category was not honored that year as well. Why it wasn't honored, I didn't have enough time to research. I don't fucking know. But with that said, we are going to go to the judges. Madi, I go to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
Neither of them are right because Empire is the best of the three. I went with Alan, mainly because we heard a lot about Return of the Jedi, whether it was David putting points against it or Alan defending it, but there wasn't a whole lot said negative about There wasn't a lot said about New Hope in general, but Alan in his closing really did pull out a couple knocks on New Hope, so that's why I went with Alan.
All right, and Will, I go to you next. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you? And you are muted. But I saw Alan. Still can't hear you, but I did see Alan on your board, so I know that Alan gets the point.
Can you hear me now?
There it is.
Okay, so what sold me on this argument, while Madi is correct that there was absolutely no rebuttals as to why New Hope was not the best, what Alan's arguments for why his kind of elevated everything beyond what David was saying about New Hope.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back and bring back in our competitors. After 3 great rounds, we are moving on to a 4th one. And I'm just going to get this out of the way as vaguely as possible. You'll get what I mean when the answers come up. But there is a certain large sect of the internet community that are very vocal with their Twitter and their hashtags that are not going to like where this question is going, not because of how it's worded, more just the unfortunateness of the answers. However, I wouldn't disagree with either of these answers personally, and thus I am happy that this is happening. With that said, the question is, what is the most overrated film based on DC Comics? And some of you are already smiling because you know exactly where this is going. All right, let's get into it. With that said, David, you are up first this time around. No, it's Alan this time. David went first last time, I believe. So, Alan, you are up first. My judges are telling me I'm correct. Thank you guys for paying attention because I'm not. Alan, you are up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
So the most overrated of the DC films, I chose with a film that was based off of the DC character. I'll argue without this character, there is no DC, and that is Superman. And the film that I feel is the most overrated is Man of Steel. Superman is about hope. He has always been about hope. They tried to shoehorn that in there in Man of Steel with the meaning of the Kryptonian meaning of his symbol of the House of El. But they fail miserably because the whole film is nothing about hope. It is about bleak doom and gloom and destruction. Superman saves lives. He doesn't destroy the city and kill the enemy. It is terribly, terribly muted colors, a horrible soundtrack, except for one moment in the film. I think overall that is a failure on all parts to represent Superman, and is just a bleak doom and gloom movie that has no place being rated as high as it is in certain circles.
All right, David, over to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
So with this question, I decided to go, I think, with the same route Alan did. And the one that is, I think, the DC movie that's very well liked in the community, but is like probably the farthest to the original content that it's created of, is Watchmen, the movie. I think Watchmen tries to do something that doesn't fit with the Watchmen concept. The Watchmen concept is a washed up stupid dork superheroes that try to do stuff. They are people dressed in costumes going in the streets, beating up people but looking pathetic while doing it. And Zack Snyder, in his typical style, he made them gloomy and dark and very intense and very, very, very cool. And I think the Watchmen are not supposed to be cool. That's the antithesis of everything that the comic book Watchmen represents. And I think because of that, and because the people really like it, it's the most overrated movie based on this.
All right. Yep. Sorry, Snyder fans. You may have got your damn Snyder cut, but you're not getting a positive cut of this fight. Alan, back up to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
I'd argue that Watchmen is about doom and gloom. That's what it's about. That's what the original comic is about. It doesn't glamorize superheroes at all. It shows all their flaws and how really strange and weird the whole concept is. But Superman is not doom and gloom and was presented in a doom and gloom way. Watchmen kind of stayed true to that aspect. There is no joy in anyone's life in this film. So I think for the director, that fit his perfect MO. Exactly right. Here we go. We're going to get a film filled with doom and gloom in Watchmen, and it's a visually stunningly beautiful masterpiece. The opening credits to Watchmen, I think, is probably one of the greatest opening credits of any film, and taking it back to its roots of we're showing time passing. We're using music, a pop song that shows all this in a really amazing way. And we're seeing all these snapshots and what could be comic book panels. There's none of that ingenuity in Man of Steel. They're actually ripping off. It's an Avatar. We've heard all kinds of things about Avatar. The planets that Krypton represents in the way that it looks and all these kind of things. It's just. It's not something that represents what the essence of Superman is supposed to be, which is hope. Seeing the poster right there, it doesn't show you anything that's about hope for Superman. And people herald it as, the best Superman movie. This is so great. Watchmen really didn't get that much love in the community, especially when the television series said that by the critics and fans alike has told the story of Watchmen, and even though it's a kind of a sequel-esque kind of weird thing, but this told that story better than the previous Watchmen film. I think Man of Steel is much more detrimental to the character and what it's trying to do in telling a Superman story than Watchmen is. Pretty accurate in telling this story, that story of doom and gloom. So I think Man of Steel fails as a record of a Superman film.
All right, David, back over to you. Time starts and you begin speaking.
Well, you said Watchmen is the perfect representation of the original content, and I disagree. For example, the sex scene, even with the performance problems, they made it very sexy and very great, how sex scenes are usually. But in the comic, it's you don't see the sex scene. You see an Ozymandias clip of being completely perfect while you read the dialogue of granting, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Let's try this way. And this never happened to me before. Then the next one is we don't want to talk about this, but if we talk about Watchmen, we have to, is the rape scene. The rape scene in the comic is completely rough. It's completely it sickens you. While at the start of that rape scene, you try to make I forgot the actress's name. You try to make her super sexy. You try to make her super provocative. While in the original thing, the comedian doesn't get provoked. She doesn't provoke anything out of him, and he still rapes her. I think the difference of that scene is key. The setup of the scene, they are both awful, but I think the difference in setup is great. Then you also mentioned that it's visually stunning. I guess you are stunned by blue big dicks dangling around every single frame of the movie. But I mean, I don't want to go into that. It's good for you, great for you. Then some of the makeups, especially visual, especially the President of the United States makeup, you can say that it's visually stunning in Watchmen. You cannot say that, and it's very, very well received. A lot of people have Watchmen as their favorite DC movie, and that baffles me, or at least they had it until Joker came out, because they are like very gritty fans of this anti-society stuff. And then I think one of the mistakes the movie makes is to dignifying the comedian in his death. He fights for his life until the last second, and you actually feel sorry for him when you are not meant to. A character like that doesn't deserve you to feel sorry for him when he dies. And in the comic, you don't, because he dies in his underwear pathetically in his room while he drinks alcohol without fighting.
And time. All right, we're going to go into a 4-minute open discussion. The timer will start ticking when the first person speaks.
Well, I don't think we saw his big blue dong every frame of the film. So, come on. A couple times, sure, a couple shots. But I think with the makeup and the fact that you mentioned with the president, he's supposed to look bad. The whole film, the whole thing, the comic book strength was a film on, government's not right. Vigilantism isn't right. None of these things are solving the problems that the world needs right now. So I think it's supposed to look ugly. And I did not think any of the characters in Watchmen were cool. I didn't think they were represented to be cool either. I think they were all kind of disgusting people, which again is the theme of the comic book itself. So I think it's a great representation in what it was supposed to represent, what it was supposed to be.
Let me respond to that argument in particular. I didn't say that they are supposed to be cool people. They look cool while they are doing what they're doing. The fights are really cool. As typical Schneider, the first scene of the movie is Rorschach using the rope gun to go up and then land spectacularly on the apron of the window, while in the comic he has to. It's a struggle. That first scene sets you up for the struggle, and actually the ridiculousness that's being a superhero in that kind of world. And they don't look ridiculous in this movie. They actually look really cool. Daniel Driver has like a big ship and everything, and the fight in the prison is great, and it's not supposed to be. Sorry, continue.
Well, no, I think I'll agree with you. The action sequences are framed, but I think that has more to do with knowing your audience as a film. They're going to watch a film. If this was a representation of both these as comic books, then I think both would look very, very different. But as a film, you got to get your audience to want to watch what's happening in it, and the brutality of that bar scene and what the comedian does to that woman is really. I mean, the fight scenes, it's well choreographed, but it's supposed to make you feel, oh my God, this is not fun to watch. I think the jailbreak scenes are not fun to watch. When Rorschach says, "You're all here with me," is not, I don't think, a cheer, yeah, moment. I think it's a, oh, damn, this is nasty. Do I want to keep watching? Yes, because it's a film and the action is kind of stimulating. But I don't think it's going for looking cool or rooting with these people. At least when I watch it, I don't think it's a film that's rewatchable in a way. I want to watch something that feels good. I'm going to watch Watchmen. No, not really. I might watch it because the visuals are really beautiful, and I might watch it but not listen to it because the sound effects are so incredible, intense. But I don't think it's supposed to be cheer moments. I think it's supposed to be, oh, wow, the brutality has to look good because it's a film. Yes, and we have to keep the audience engaged in watching it. But I don't think they're supposed to look cool.
I think it's actually interesting that you mentioned rewatchable, because I think Man of Steel is actually very rewatchable. Man of Steel, it's a movie that maybe it doesn't represent like the concept of Superman, but it's still a good movie.
I think it's inconsistent in the story of Superman.
The scenes are great. I think the effects are very good. The problem it has is the color, as most Zack Snyder films, including Watchmen. I think the color is a problem, but I think the concept of the Superman, that he is forced with a moral dilemma of killing this person or letting those innocent families die. I think it's a moral concept that Superman doesn't usually get exposed to, and I think it's a really interesting thing that they tried to do, and that they actually did, and they kept exploring in following films, even if they were awful. But I think Man of Steel kind of deserves to be well viewed because it's a different take on Superman. It's a different take. You may not like the different take, but just because it's different of what you know,
But
doesn't mean
it's a
it's
wrong
bad.
take on Superman. I mean, it's just a theoretical to the character. It's antithetical to the character. He's not about destruction and death. He's about hope.
And time. All right, we are going to move into the 1 minute closings. Alan, you are up first, sir. So time will start when you begin speaking.
I think getting the point of the character is something that any film, you're trying to tell a new group of people who may not know about this character, who this character is, what this character represents. And Man of Steel fails spectacularly on all those fronts. It's inconsistent with the moral dilemmas faced between Superman. The whole death of the father is just ridiculous. You know, don't show people who you are. Don't say what you're supposed to do with this world. You're here for a reason, but it's just to kind of hang back and not save me, even though you could save me without anybody knowing it because you're super fast. But I'm just going to let myself die in this tornado because I don't want the world to maybe get a glimpse of you, which they wouldn't because you're too fast for that. So the moral dilemma, there's so much ambiguity. It means nothing. He doesn't learn about who he truly is until he visits his ghost of his father, which is a computer program, holodeck. It's so strange and stupid, makes no sense, and it's not true to who Superman is. Superman had other options, not killing.
All right, David, you have the final minute of this round. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Not good. Okay. I would like you to give me another option that Superman had instead of killing Zod to save those families, because honestly, I didn't see one. But I actually think that Watchmen does a more damage to the source material than you are saying Man of Steel does. And I think because of that difference, the love that Watchmen receives is awful. And I think they get the different concept completely because they made Night Owl to be Batman, to be super cool, to have this technology, this great life and everything. But they don't have that in the comic. They are supposed to be stupid idiots, like that MMA guy that dressed as a superhero and started stopping crimes with this. Everybody thought that's stupid. Also, by the way, I don't know if you listen to music while doing sex, but Hallelujah wouldn't be the theme I would choose. And I think Man of Steel actually started a great arc for Superman. I really like Henry Cavill Superman, and Henry Cavill, he is a great Superman.
And time. All right, guys, once again, another really good round from you guys. You've both done excellent so far. I'm going to go ahead and send you both to the back and bring in our judges. And there's not a lot of fact checking, although I would like to speak for myself and only myself when I say there is nothing wrong with Leonard Cohen's deep-throated sound during sex. But with that said, Will, I go to you. Who couldn't get that out with a straight face? Will, go to who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
All right, so I went with Alan. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I went with Alan, ignoring the fact that David made some pretty inaccurate points about Watchmen. I have read the comic multiple times and seen the movie multiple times. Alan just managed to rebut all of David's points very, very well as make some really good points against Man of Steel.
All right, you guys can argue that later because I've barely seen the movie, let alone read the comic, so I can't fact check shit. Alejandro, I go to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
For this one, I decided to go with David. I think he's absolutely right about Watchmen. The fact that anybody likes this movie is beyond me. I have no idea why. And I think Alan brought up some good points about Man of Steel being a bad movie and a bad take on Superman, but Watchmen had the opportunity to build these characters that people didn't really know and failed miserably. So yeah, David for me.
All right, and Madi, I go to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
First of all, Leonard Cohen is not the deep throat that I would want in bed, but that's not here nor there. I also went with David. I think that his point in this close, it was pretty close throughout, but I think the point that he made in closing about how Henry Cavill is a great Superman and how his, not only his performance, but also like how he is as Superman, was really enjoyable, really helped put it over. Also, I like both of these movies. I think they're both fine. Like, whatever.
All right. Well, there you go, Snyder fans. That's your one bit of positivity there. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back and bring in our competitors because, unfortunately, on their debuts, they're both just so good at this that they're not done yet. Here we go, gentlemen. We are going into the blind round. Here is how that works. The blind round is a question that neither of these gentlemen have any idea of where it'll come from. They have not seen it beforehand. This will be completely new to them. The way that this will work is I will give you a generalized statement. So something along the lines of name me a Will Smith movie. I will need you guys to name me in a reasonable amount of time a film that falls into that category. Whoever answers first will go first when the actual round begins. Once you guys have given your answers, the real question will be revealed. Whether or not you agree or disagree with the statement, you will have to do your best to argue for that film. You will also be given some time to prep for it, so you don't have to just completely go from the jump. You will have a chance to put some sort of an argument together within a few minutes. Other than that, the rules of the round are exactly the same as what you guys have done the entire match. I figure, the fucking with the questions more than enough. We're not going to do anything else weird with you. And this will decide the winner. So with that said, gentlemen, are you both ready to go?
Sure.
All right. And for what it's worth, if you immediately can't think of anything, I am okay with you using your computers to look up an answer. I try and make these as simple as possible, but sometimes if the brain's farting, especially Alan, it's early for you, and David, it is late for you. So if you need it, go ahead and do so. With that said, gentlemen,
Nice.
Are you ready?
Show enough.
Here we go. Your prompt is, name me a Tom Cruise film released in the 1990s.
Oh.
Well, movie release dates I have to.
Can I just answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men is Alan's answer.
Yeah.
I don't know where anything came out.
That's fine. I'll give you a minute or two to do the quick search for it.
Yeah.
David, your hallelujah statement on that was brilliant, brother. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible.
98? Was that 98?
I don't know. I just saw
96.
that Mission Impossible 2 is 2000, so the first one has to be before.
There you go.
96. You are good.
96.
And I think A Few Good Men's like 92 or 93. So
92 or 3, yeah.
So you
I haven't seen a few good men, so I'm going to have a hard time debating it.
Oh no. Let's hope this question ain't crazy then.
The question is, what is Tom Cruise's worst film of the 1990s?
Oh! Damn it!
All right. So the way that this is going to go is we will go off screen for a few minutes. For the people at home, it will be a matter of seconds. The competitors are going to have some time to put their arguments together, and then they will come back and we will fight. With that said, see you in just a minute. All right, guys, we are back. What has been a matter of seconds for all of you has been a number of minutes for us while these guys go ahead and do their best to get the arguments together. As a reminder, the question is, what is Tom Cruise's worst film of the 1990s? And if you just tuned in at the, with editing, we'll say this is like the hour 40 mark. Let's see how true that is. You'd be shocked if you knew the answers were A Few Good Men and Mission Impossible, but that's because it's a blind round. They didn't have a choice in what they were answering. They just had to answer. So, gentlemen, you've done excellent so far, and I look forward to seeing how you handle this. Alan, because you did answer first, you will be up first as I bring the timer in and make myself disappear. It will start ticking when you speak.
When we're talking about Tom Cruise films, I mean, we've got a lot of films in his repertoire, but we're really talking about three different kind of phases of his career, because Tom Cruise has been a movie star, a legit actor, and then an action hero, an action star. So I think when he first was on the scene, he was movie star. He was movie star mode. His name was on the marquee. And people were putting their butts in their seats to see Tom Cruise, the movie star. He really, towards the 2000s, he became a kind of an actor in really incredible films, and his acting prowess kind of showed up. And then now he's kind of known more for his action star-ness, his action hero-ness. So I think A Few Good Men fell right in that. He's a really hammy actor. He's not got his acting chops in. He's a movie star, but he can't be an actor, a legit actor, as a movie star in a film that needed a really legit actor. So Few Good Men, definitely Tom Cruise's worst film in the 90s.
And time. All right, David, over to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
To say that A Few Good Men is the worst Tom Cruise film in the 90s, I think it's a travesty against cinema. I mean, maybe it wasn't one of his best performances, which I think actually it is, and it's what made him the great actor, as you described. I think it was that performance that was a breakthrough, and we said, hey, this guy actually can really act. It's not only a movie star. We can put him in different roles. He can hang with people like Jack freaking Nicholson. The question is not in which movie is Tom Cruise the worst, it's what is the worst movie of Tom Cruise in the 90s. I think Mission Impossible has some stupid things in it. Too many stupid things in it. Like, it's supposed to be a realistic spy movie, action spy movie, and those masks with the boys thing, they border science fiction. And I don't think that fits in a Mission Impossible realistic spy action film. It doesn't fit. And also it has a few wasted concepts and a few stupid things that I will go on later.
And time.
Go on with.
All right, later. Alan, back over to you for 2 minutes. Time starts and you begin speaking.
Tom Cruise definitely was hamming it up in A Few Good Men, and I think everybody who was in that film was hamming it up. Jack Nicholson, nobody remembers Jack Nicholson from Few Good Men. They remember one line from it because it's a very well-written line from that film. But everybody in that film, the less said the better. It's Kevin Bacon's least memorable film, acting wise. I mean, the acting's all over the place, and that's because of the direction. It's Rob Reiner's worst film by far. He is known for being a romantic comedy director, and that's where his wheelhouse was, not a very straight, serious courtroom drama. He mishandled that whole thing, and we forget about Demi Moore because we forget about Demi Moore. There was no amazing performances in A Few Good Men. It was all ham-fisted acting, overacting, because Rob Reiner was trying to direct a romantic comedy, but it wasn't a romantic comedy story. It was a courtroom drama, a very serious courtroom drama that failed on all measures, and especially for Tom Cruise, because his big action hero turn, leading man thing, got put into Mission Impossible. And Mission Impossible was a great success because there's been 6 ongoing sequels to that film. Mission Impossible triumphed as an action movie, a thriller film, a spy movie, and even the Mission Impossible franchise overtook James Bond. It's the American James Bond franchise. So it's really, really successful. And I think one of his best films in the 90s, whereas there was too many things going against A Few Good Men, particularly Tom Cruise acting, because he was really, really hammy because he was still in movie star mode, and wasn't quite in that serious courtroom drama subtlety. There was no subtlety in that movie whatsoever. In fact, the reason people remember it is for it not being subtle and being really, really over the top and melodramatic to a high degree. So without a doubt, his worst film, and he was terrible in the 90s.
All right, that's time. David, back over to you.
I would like to counter a few arguments that you made. Like you said, it is the most forgettable Kevin Bacon movie. Do you remember R.I.P.D.? Remember that movie? Anybody remembers that movie? You said the performances are awful. Then Jack Nicholson is awful in it. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor that year for A Few Good Men. You said it's the director's worst movie. It was nominated for Best Picture in that year. And then you said they only remember one thing about that movie. I think they remember most of the ending speech of the courtroom, which is one of the best speeches of the history of cinema. One of the best. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's one of the best. And I think saying that that movie is inferior to Mission Impossible is just one of the craziest things I have heard you say, and you have said a lot of crazy things in the course that we have been together. This movie still holds up. It's ahead of its time in conversation of things like bullying and covering up in the military in America in 1960s, in 1996, which was a thing that nobody there talked about in that era. Is one of the best courtroom dramas of history in the cinema. While Mission Impossible has Emilio Estevez that's in there for like 3 minutes. The stupid scene of the assassination in the recording, you clearly see the guy doing this. So if you are a little smart, you can see what's going on. Also, the train scene, everybody agrees that the train scene is stupid when Tom Cruise is holding with one finger on the train. And it's not the best movie of Brian De Palma, isn't it? I mean, do we all agree that it's not the best movie of Brian De Palma? Brian De Palma has a great repertoire of movies that are way better than Mission Impossible. So I don't think that there is an argument here to make that Mission Impossible is better than A Few Good Men.
All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. This will be a joy. Time starts when you guys begin speaking.
Well, if we're talking about Tom Cruise, though, specific, Tom Cruise movies, I mean, Mission Impossible is, without a doubt, one of his most successful franchises. And he's the perfect Ethan Hunt. Nobody else could have played that role. In A Few Good Men, there were a number of different people that could have played that role easily and far better than Tom Cruise did in that film. And I ain't never seen A Few Good Men sequel. I think the people remember the script and the play, A Few Good Men, as being a really, really good courtroom drama. But the film fails on all those things. And I'm sorry, the Oscar nominations and the Oscar almost wins that we never won. There's a lot of films that won Oscars and got nominated for Oscars that don't deserve that stuff. Crash, anybody? I'm sorry. No, fail. So by that goalpost, I don't think it wins anything in there. And Tom Cruise, he defined action hero in a way that no other, for a thriller, spy thriller, could have done with the Mission Impossible. It was absolutely amazing. I just watched the Ghost Protocol and then Fallout and then Rogue Nation. Because absolutely incredible. So, you know what I'm going to do in a couple days? I'm going to watch the first one where it all came from because of the success of that first film. It's a great spy thriller. And how many people tried to parody the heist scene when he's in the room with the cable, trying to touch the computer, the tension, the use of no sound, and the use of tension in that scene is amazingly directed, and people have tried to emulate that for a long time. Brian De Palma is a great at the thrillers and espionage films, and I think Mission Impossible is one of the greatest achievements in taking that to the mainstream audience.
I'm actually really glad that you mentioned the hacking out scene, because you said that people only remember A Few Good Men for one line. People only remember Mission Impossible because of that scene. Not a lot of people can actually tell me the plot of Mission Impossible. I can tell you the plot because I have to study it for another league in trivia. But honestly, most people just remember the music and the hanging scene. Well, also, it's also interesting that you measured the quality of a movie on if it has sequels. Can I ask you a question? Does The Shawshank Redemption have a sequel? No, it
Yes.
doesn't. It does.
It doesn't. It doesn't have a sequel.
And it's considered one of the best movies of all time. So I don't think not having a sequel necessarily means.
I think it's the most exposed movie of all time. It's been on every cable channel known to man. I don't think that would qualify it as one of the best films of all time. It's really exposed.
It's considered one of the best movies of all time. And the fact that you are saying that anybody could play Tom Cruise's character in A Few Good Men, it's true, but he played it, and he played it great. And we are not judging Tom Cruise in those movies. We are judging the movies in general. And I think you are focusing too much on Tom Cruise because you don't have a lot to say against A Few Good Men.
But the question is, what is Tom Cruise's worst film in the 90s? So Tom Cruise got to be in it.
Worst film, worst performance. I think there is a difference that we are judging the movie.
Well, then I'm going to argue that, Mission Impossible is far better than A Few Good Men. It's more action-packed. It's more tense. You remember a lot more. I mean, you remember the courtroom scene. I don't really remember. I remember one line from that courtroom scene. I don't remember the whole monologue at the end of it. I remember that one line because it's been played on clip shows for a million times over, and been parried a million times over.
You are telling me that A Few Good Men doesn't create tension? You are telling me
no, it doesn't. Not when I watched it, I went, okay, this is interesting, but it's boring. And it's not a military espionage questioning the military. It was the actions of the one guy, the one character.
Exactly.
So
and
I don't,
And how the military tried to protect him and how you have to fight it.
But they arrested him at the end.
Time.
They didn't protect him. Oh, sorry.
I'm going to take that out of your seconds, Alan. You do go up first, though, so the timer starts for your 1 minute closing when you begin speaking.
The question is, what is Tom Cruise's worst film in the 90s? He had a whole lot of bigger successes and better films in the 90s. I would argue Legend, Far and Away, Born on the 4th of July. There's a whole slew of films that were better in the 90s for Tom Cruise, as Tom Cruise in them. A Few Good Men is forgettable largely, except for, again, I'm going to argue that one line. It got nominated for Oscars, but a lot of things that are easily forgettable got nominated for Oscars. I don't hold that as any kind of goalpost. Mission Impossible is a far better film, more rewatchable. I'm not going to rewatch A Few Good Men anytime in the near future, and I don't think many people will. But Mission Impossible will be rewatched, and again, the variant sequels that come from it. It's a perfect starring role for Tom Cruise. And we all remember that character because of Tom Cruise and that movie because of him. So it's far, I think, Mission Impossible way better than A Few Good Men.
All right, David, you have the final minute of the match. It is yours to use when you start speaking.
I'm sorry, did you say Legend is better than A Few Good Men? Did you mention that movie, that fantasy movie, Legend? Are you seriously telling me that Tom Cruise running around in the forest with a very, very short chainmail dress is worse? It's better than A Few Good Men. Okay, great. Michael Bay's movies has had a lot of success as action movies and a lot of sequels, and I don't think any of us agree that the Transformers movies are great. I don't think that's a criteria that you can use to judge the quality of a movie, while A Few Good Men is a perfect courtroom drama with great performances that received Oscars nominations, that has one of the best one-liners of the entire history of cinema. As you said, it has a great plot, great cast that perform at their best, and it is the movie that made Tom Cruise seen in the community of Hollywood as, hey, this guy can actually act. Let's put him in other types of films, until he did Mission Impossible.
And time. All right, gentlemen. Well, you've both had an excellent match, so from here on out, wherever it goes, may the best go.
Love you, man.
I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back and bring in our judges. Just a couple quick small fact checks before we get to the final decision. In the discussion of if Tom Cruise was the only person who could have played an individual role, in the case of Mission Impossible, it would have been theoretically impossible for anyone else to be considered for the role of Ethan Hunt, because that movie only got made because Tom Cruise started a production company, bought the rights to Mission Impossible because he was a fan of the show as a kid and said, I want to make this with me in it. And it was the first film produced under his production company. So literally, I don't think anyone else could have been considered. In the case of A Few Good Men, though, while you could argue that maybe the role could have been given to somebody else, Cruise was not only the first of the stars cast in the film, he was also given an incredibly high rate of $12.5 million, meaning he was considered essential for the film by the standards of the budget. The other quick fact check was at the end there, Alan listed 3 films from the 90s that were comparable successes to A Few Good Men. 2 of those did not come out in the 90s. Legend came out in 1985, and Born on the 4th of July came out in 1989. Far and Away did come out in 1992. And the last fact check is, as someone who's never seen Legend, because as we've established, I don't even study for TM Geek, I looked up Tom Cruise in that film, and goddamn, that gold dress is short. With that said, though, Alejandro, I do go to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say this has been an absolute ball. Both competitors have been very cohesive and comprehensive in making all their points, and it's been respectful all across the game. So bravo to you both. It was absolutely outstanding. For this round, the blind round, they did not have an easy task to break down these 2 movies as arguably Tom Cruise's best films, 2 of them at least. But they did make some good points. Few Good Men didn't get a sequel. It did have a better play than a movie. I think that's an absolute truth. Tom Cruise is better as an action star, and Mission Impossible is great at building tension, but Nicholson did end up walking away with that supporting actor nomination for A Few Good Men, and it doesn't really need a sequel. So for that reason, those points get knocked back. David.
All right, so we have a first vote to David. Mehdi, I go down to you. It's your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
I don't think it was a main point necessarily that sold me. It was just the way that the argument kind of flowed. Alan, seeing as how I know that you actually really like A Few Good Men, really good job on being able to argue against it and kind of put it down as much as you could. I know that was probably tough for you, so kudos to you on that. But my main thing was that we heard a lot about Few Good Men, and Alan did kind of talk up Mission Impossible, while David didn't really talk it down as much as I was kind of hoping to see, I guess. So for that reason, I went with Alan. You can see on the board, but it just because there wasn't enough bringing Mission Impossible down compared to how much was put towards A Few Good Men on both ends.
It was a great round.
So with that said, Will, I go to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
All right, so I also went with Alan because while I'll agree that Mission Impossible is, not one of his best films, Alan had the Herculean task of trying to talk down probably one of his best films, I would say, of his entire storied career, which is A Few Good Men, and he did it expertly. So have to give it to that.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your help tonight. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys behind the scenes because your winner by a final blind round score of 3-2 is Dr. Spaceman, Alan Shepard, pulling out the hard-fought victory. And, sir, welcome back. We threw you right in the deep end, both of you, really. But you are a part of kind of the new, smaller rookie class, technically. But you come back in a big way. You're now 1-0. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. That was not easy. David is no joke, man. He knows his stuff, whether it's trivia, whether it's debate. He's just a wealth of information, one of the smartest guys ever. And I love his cool, calm, collected whole demeanor. He's just a good guy, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I love it when I'm going against somebody that knows what they're talking about, knows what they're doing, and David shines as a great example of that kind of guy, that kind of person, that kind of competitor. So my hat's off to you, brother. Much love to you. But it's nice to get a win. In the trivia side, I ain't been getting that many wins lately, so it's nice to be back and get a victory in this realm too. So it's good.
Absolutely, sir. And at the moment, we obviously don't have anyone lined up for you. But I hope if you're feeling good after this, we will see you back as soon as we can have you. And I look forward to that. So thank you so much, man. Congratulations on the win. And I'm going to send you to the back and bring out your opponent in David, who, despite coming in at an 0-1, it was a hard-fought battle. I think, you came in with that edge of kind of calmness and just going, look, whatever happens, happens. But I do think you did a really excellent job today. How are you feeling after that match?
I'm actually feeling it's weird because I lost the points on the ones that I thought I could win the most, and then I won them, and I won points in the ones that I wasn't feeling sure like at all. But so it was weird. That I think I learned a lot today about how the argument, because I know you are in America you have like debate groups and stuff, and like you do debates in high school, and we don't have that.
I didn't, but it's a thing, yeah.
It's a thing. I didn't have that. I don't know how debate works. I only have 2 debates in online here in the previous version of this, and it was geek. And so I think I am learning on the job, and it was a good practice for that Wizarding World debate that's coming. And yeah, Alan is a great guy. I have been on call with him a few times now. I have kicked his ass twice now in trivia, so it's nice for him to get a win over me in debate. But yeah, it was really fun, and I think the fact that we didn't step on each other and we kind of respected each other's turns and everything, and I think we understood that the other person had to talk, and so it was just a very fun and like, I don't know, polite match. So I really I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, you did a great job, sir. So I think you did awesome. Obviously, in April, there is that Wizarding World exhibition coming up that you will be a part of. And obviously, whether or not you want to continue past that outside of some exhibitions, if you can get into them, I would love to have you back. It wouldn't be till after that one, so you have a bit of time to think about it. But you did a great job here, and I think that's a really good foundation to continue. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you staying up late as I do with pretty much every international competitor. That's unfortunately kind of the way it works out. But you guys are all awesome, and I will see you next time you are here, sir. And yeah, guys, that was an excellent match. These guys may have been rookies, but they brought the fire tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching this match. Shout out to all 3 of my judges in Alejandro, Medi, and Will for being here to help us tonight. Shout out to, obviously, David Garcia Alonso for being here. Shout out to Dr. Spaceman Alan Shepard for getting the win. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to rate the video, comment, subscribe, interact with the channel. Let me know how we're doing, and give these guys some praise because they did an awesome job. And that is it. I will see you next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care, everybody.